Hi, and welcome to Intrepid Wisdom. My name is Deborah J, and on today's episode, we have Sharon Kenny of the MatchMaker.ie. Sharon has been passionate about spreading the love for over 14 years now as Ireland's #1 matchmaker, Agony aunt, and dating coach. She not only introduces you to your soulmate, Sharon makes sure that you connect on a level that will last forever. 80% of Sharon's clients start dating by their fourth introduction, which is fantastic. And she says it's a good feeling, and then linking everything from values to that spark. It starts by loving you and bringing your happiest, authentic self to the table. So you're so welcome, Sharon.
Thank you very much for having me, Deborah. Lovely to be here.
So I'm kind of doing a couple of podcasts on relationships, and what I wanted to look at is, I think, things have changed so much in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I remember when online dating became a thing, and I remember thinking, oh God, I wouldn't do that, And then
yeah.
my relationship, I remember getting into a relationship and I met him online, and then I became single, and my God, the whole world of dating had completely changed, and everything went from being offline to online,
Yeah.
and everything kind of flipped. And for me, it was a bit kind of startling because it just felt that there was a loss of kind of that human connection, and it all seemed a bit shallow. And
Yeah.
I'd love to have a chat about where dating is at, and especially
Yeah.
because you're a matchmaker, because matchmaking goes back a long, long
Oh,
time ago.
unbelievable.
And
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
in Ireland, it's a really, really huge thing in Ireland. Like, we have a festival around matchmaking here as well. So I'd love to have a chat about all that today. But first, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you become a matchmaker?
Well, the reason I feel I'm so good at matchmaking is that, and it's a funny situation. When I was 18, I was in a mixed school. But when I was 12, I was taken out of school because I came home on the crossbar of a guy's bike. And my mum thought, at 12, that's happening a bit too soon. So she sent me off from that school when I went at 14 to an all girls school. And I felt I was way ahead, even though all I'd done is kiss a guy at that stage. But I felt, because the girls were so much more innocent, that I was way ahead. So I was able to introduce the girls from the mixed school to the other girls, or the guys from the mixed school to the girls at the all girls school. And I start at the devs. I match made 5 couples at the devs. So it was great fun. Yeah. But
That's
it actually goes back even further than that. My granny, she was from Westmeath, and I'm dyslexic, and she had to help me with my reading. But out of 7 years, she weren't married. So she'd be looking up the back of the Farmer's Journal and say, now read that, Sharon, to improve your reading. So even at the age 9, 10, much younger, I would have been reading, looking for someone for my aunt or my uncle on the back of the Farmer's Journal. So there's so
Oh
funny.
my
Yeah.
God, that's fantastic. So then,
Yeah.
so you've been doing this for quite a while. Like, what do you
Yeah.
feel? Do you feel that it's always just come naturally to you? What do you
It,
feel when you see a couple or you see two people? What is it
yeah.
that you feel inside that goes, ooh, that's going to work, or I need to
Uh,
introduce these people?
Yeah, and even when I'm out, even over these times, and you can go out, I notice couples across, and I can see their body language and what they're doing wrong, and him trying too hard or her not trying hard enough. So it really started when my marriage broke down, that I realized, oh my gosh, I would be good at matchmaking. But I was being a bit selfish, and all of us are looking for happiness, and we want to be as happy as we can be. And I was with my husband from when I was 22 till 39. And when I got brokenhearted, I went to that space of pain and realizing, oh my gosh, I can't be by myself. I need to find someone. And I went on the rebound straight away, met someone. So I did everything the wrong way. And because of doing it the wrong way, I've learned how to help people do it the right way, because I've self-taught myself and done so many courses in getting myself to the best place possible. And it goes back to one little word: our own happiness, and to be happy within ourselves.
Mm.
So yeah, it was out of heartbreak that I got to where I am. And then I was very lucky because at that stage, I'm doing exactly what I am doing now, but I charged like 25% of the price. But that's because I didn't have the money to put into advertising, and I was working so hard to get it right. And then I was very lucky. This client came to me and he said, listen, I'll give you 2 grand for advertising. And I was only starting the business, had no money. And I thought, 2 grand. And he said, yeah, I want you to, I said, I was always very honest about, I don't have enough ladies in your age bracket on my books at the moment for the standard you go for. So I try to make myself, like this imposter syndrome to a certain extent, make myself feel I am good, I can do this. I kept on saying to myself, I am enough, I am worthy, I am brilliant at what I do. So I kept on forcing that chat on myself. And then because I match made him and found someone for him, I put the money straight into advertising, which got my business to flow so well, and it is where it is now. And it's all about feeling authentic and honest and giving to your clients.
And isn't it so, I love that it's so serendipitous, you know, we meet the right people at the right time when it's the right time as well. And it's lovely to meet these people who catapult us forward, because it obviously, with it being a very natural gift, it's just fantastic that somebody saw that in you to help kind of push you forward.
Yeah.
So when you say, like, what is the right and wrong things that we're doing? Like when you look at like years ago, you know, somebody threw a glance at you and you were like, oh, you know, whereas now it's like you're online and it's like Tinder and Bumble and all these horrendous apps, which even as somebody like myself, like I've uploaded and like uninstalled them so many times, because they're just, for me personally, it's you know, I would want more depth in my relationship. I want an actual relationship. So what do you find when people are coming to you, you know, why are they coming to you?
They're coming to me because they have tried everything out there and they haven't found that right person, or they realize they're making mistakes and they don't understand their triggers. And they're saying, why did I do that? Why did he do that? Why did she do that? When really they should be looking more at themselves. Like, we're so quick when a relationship is breaking down to pass the blame. And we always have to remember, 1 finger pointing out and 3 pointing back. But it goes even further. It goes back to when we were in tribes, and the men would be out there doing the hunting, and you'd have your granny to talk to, you'd have your aunt to talk to, you'd have your you'd go out picking berries with your friends, you'd go and you'd turn to different people in your tribe for different things. Nowadays we turn to our husband or our partner for everything. So he's our best friend, he's our lover, he's our one that we moan to, he's the one we need to do so many sports with. We just need to get back to being happy in ourselves and realize if you are not happy in yourself. So in that stage when I was splitting up, I went absolutely insane because I met him at 22. I was like out there meeting everyone, thinking I was that happiest, most wonderful person out there on the outside. But on the inside, I was absolutely brokenhearted and in so much pain. And I didn't work on my own pain first. We always have to do a little bit of work. It's not over the top, but do a little work on ourselves, and whether it's journaling and write down those traumas, write down those fears and deal with them. And there's simple ways to deal with them. But, you know, we don't have to keep them in our head and refocus and have them trigger us to, I'm not doing that simple thing because of this fear. We need to step away from our fears and come to relationships as our authentic selves, which we don't do. We come and say, well, what does he want? Because what we want most in life for happiness is that connection, back to that tribe thing. And what we fear most is rejection. So we try to change ourselves and look at that connection and do everything in our possible to avoid not being like, so we're not taking the genuine us to the relationship.
Mhm. Yeah, and I absolutely, like, I got shivers up my back when you were saying about the whole tribe thing, because I just think it's so important. And I've said it in a
Yeah,
number of podcasts, you know, the
yeah,
world that we're living in now, the role and dynamic of family and also community is somewhat fractured. You know, a lot of us are moving
yeah,
away from home to go to college, or we're moving away from home to get, you know, jobs in other places. We don't
yeah.
really necessarily belong to the same communities that we grew up in, and we don't know,
Yes,
you know, we might not even know our neighbors. And even with our families, that means that they're quite spread out. And so there is that sense of like needing to belong and needing to be connected.
yes,
And I totally agree as well. You know, I
yeah,
feel, and I've done this in my own relationships as well. I put my hand up and say, you know, I've gotten lost in the concept of, you know, having your partner to take on all those chats that you'd have with your best friend. Do you know what I mean?
yes, yeah,
And
yeah,
like guys are different to girls,
yeah.
you
They
know, and
need to go into their men cave. They
yeah, and they
need
do,
to do,
and they need to do things with other men, and women need to do things with other women. And years ago, we had like,
yeah,
you know, women's circles where we would have our moan and get things off our chest and not feel alone by talking to other
yeah,
people who are going through the
yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
And we expect our partner to solve those problems. So I just absolutely love that. Um,
Well, there's something unusual that I do as well. So, say down the west, I had this particular client, and she lives out in the back of beyond. And I introduced, and she was saying, "I'm desperate, but I've got a 10-year-old and I've got a 14-year-old. But I so need someone in my life just one day a week at this stage, because we're brought up in such a way that and her husband died, so it's a very sad situation, but because we are the mother and the strength, and we do not want to look weak, and we care too much what the neighbors think. And in a rural area, it's very hard for her to be seen with another man because her husband's only dead in her eyes 2 years.
mm,
But she has to with herself and feel that she is that wonderful, secure person, and that deserves love in her life, rather than feel, I don't, what will the neighbors think if I'm dating someone now? He's only dead, passed away 2 years. She
mm,
has to realize what's important to her. So I introduced her to another lady to get her into her girl zone and girl vibe, and kind of be able to bounce around the place. And then, because she just couldn't do wanted that, she thought it was a man in her life, but she needed to build up her friendship first. So it's back to getting into that tribe of someone who gets your vibe, who can connect like you and I, when you're saying about going back to nature. It's really so important, grounding ourselves.
And it's just, I just love so much of what you're saying. I really do. I just think it's really, really important, because I do also feel that nowadays, because everything is online, you know, even making friends is difficult. Like when you're in your
Yeah,
30s and all your, for argument's sake, just, you know, all your friends are married, they're all having kids. If you're single, it's a whole different world for meeting people, unless you're going to go out and kind of do hobbies and workshops and
yep,
all this
yep,
kind of thing to meet like-minded people. And even at that, it's an expensive way to go, because by the time you've done 20 workshops or courses, you may not have met anybody, you know.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but I just think it's really beautiful that you're also, you know, you have, because of the people that you're working with, the facility to be able to match friends up with friends, because a lot of it
yeah,
is connection. It's to do, and actually it would be very interesting to see what's the difference in connection between needing a friend and needing a partner, and how does that feel in your
yeah.
body? What's the difference?
Well, well, you do need, 97% of people need that intimate partner. Now, what's happening nowadays from a marriage point of view is 50% breakup first time round, 67 second time round, and 83 third time round. Because it's so painful the first time, and you think, how did I do it? Then usually you've kids and they're grown up that little bit more. And second time round, you say, I don't need to put up with that rubbish. I don't need to put up with that pain that I was in before. But there's other people who say, I've run from that. I can run just as quickly this time. When really you have to go back and say, can I work this out? Is he seeping all my energy? is this over? You have to go back to clarity. And we go into that rush brain where we overthink and over our subconscious trying to push us into our fear zone, when really we should just go back to literally meditating, breathing, lying down on the ground and feeling that earth connection. It might sound stupid, but there's nothing as nice lying down in the grass and looking up and looking at the clouds going by and feeling that earth connection. And there is proof that that can clear you and get you to focus and get you to ground yourself and be happy in yourself.
And I think I had read somewhere as well, your oldest client was 83. I
Absolutely.
love that. Wow. I'd love to know a
Well,
little bit more.
absolutely. And I match made him, and he actually snogged a lady on the second date. Now, I'm not saying everyone does that, and very unusual, but she nearly died. She went as far as said, "I've never had a tongue in my mouth before," and it was shocking. He was going on these cruises, and he said, instead of going on a cruise by myself and paying single supplement, why would I not go to you and meet someone and to go on that cruise with? So that's where he was coming from. But he came up here one Saturday afternoon, and he came in. We had the meeting. I went through his profile. I went through his values, and I kind of taught him a little what's happened to. He's not in a relationship for 10 years, with relationships around his age group and dealing with his expectations, and making sure he's in the right place. Which, the kissing, I think he went a little too quick. But then he realized we went out to the car, brought in a half a dozen eggs. So Irish, isn't it? I like you now. There's half a dozen eggs for you. And yeah, absolutely came out of his kind of journey of feeling like he was at the end of his tether to a situation where he started dating someone again. And gee, sure, we all deserve happiness. Back in 500 years ago, relationships used to last forever. And the reason they did mainly was because a lot of people died at 30 or 40. A lot of people realized this is for life through thick and thin. People stuck in relationships for the wrong reason. And actually, people also were in good relationships. So we're either in a relationship for a reason, a season, or forever. And our aim, and my aim, is to help people bring the best of them to the situation that they can be in that relationship forever. And that is about trusting their gut, going with their gut, clarity inside, grounding themselves. And by grounding themselves, they bring the authentic, real them to the table.
And what do you find, out of curiosity, is like, I feel there's perhaps maybe a lot of unrealistic expectations that we have on other people. And we see all the movie world and we see everything on TV, and it's all very, very beautiful and romantic and sweep you off your feet. And like, ultimately, that's actually quite disempowering, because if you're expecting somebody else to sweep you off your feet, it means that you need it in some way and you're not perhaps as fulfilled enough in your own way. So what do you find, and I'd be curious to look at this across the age ranges, what do you find is the biggest misconception on expectations that we place on people from the younger years all the way up to being in your 80s? Like, what's the differences and what are they?
Yeah, well, very good question, because it does change completely to do with age groups. So between the 20s and 30s, if we think of our body like ladies' reproduction, we're giving out pheromones of attraction. So that's why guys, even who want kids, who even in their 30s, 40s, go for 20, 30-year-olds, because they can smell that reproduction. Where we come from, the pheromones coming out there, they are more attractive sometimes if it's down to looks. They do like that kind. It's the scent. It's back to us being, the scent. And then when guys who are in their 20s and 30s, they see these girls who are absolute stunners, and a lot of them, fear comes in and say, oh, she's too good for me, or he's too good for me. The minute people go into that state of mind, they bring on they start wearing masks. So say if you had what color, if you had a mask on and to do with your aura, what color mask would you say you'd have?
I don't subscribe to the math thing, I won't lie, but
Okay.
but in terms of color, I don't know. I feel I'm a very multi-dimensional person. So for me, I would say
Okay.
it depends on the
Multicolored.
person. Yeah, and it depends on the person that I'm around. So I would
Okay.
imagine red would be very passionate and would be quite,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So if the mask, we're talking about a hypothetical mask. So if I was wearing, say, a red mask, and deep down I am a blue person, like I'm not really a kind of introvert, a shy, whatever person, and if I come out and I'm not wearing my true authentic mask,
Mm.
say I'm a rainbow, because I would consider myself a rainbow, like you. I love the color. So say I'm wearing a mask with rainbow, I'm coming out genuinely myself. But if you come out and you start dating someone and you don't bring the true you to the table, you're going to attract that broken wing. So you see so many people going and saying, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for, but they don't match up. So if you don't get it, it's all about that vibe. You and I already, we know we click because we're on the same vibe. But if you're talking to someone and you're with someone and you just don't get them, that's because you are not bringing either your true self to the table, or they're living in a fear state. So it's about getting out of our fear state. And there's this Dr. Arthur Avon, and he does this 36 questions to love. Um, uh, Anyone can email me and I'll send them to them. And I actually get them to match people's personalities, whether they're introvert or extrovert or whatever they are. But so that's a freebie to your clients. I'll do their own personal with their vibe. But if you are authentic to yourself and you come out with those real you statements that aren't just what you do, where do you come from, what you do, and people are chatting online. They were chatting to 5, 6, 7 at a time, then breadcrumbing them, keeping them tagging along. And the reason they're keeping them tagging along is they don't want to be alone. And they say, oh, he's better or she's better than no one. So they keep people tagging along. And instead of saying, let's be real to me, are they my tribe? Are they my type of person? Do they match my values? What are my values? So everyone has to go back, choose their top 5 values, and whether that's security or whether that's success, which are complete opposite. People who are usually successful are usually don't go for the security because they have that risk element. So you don't have to be the same. 75% of people go for same, but 25 go for opposites. So it's just getting that person that matches your vibe that you link up to. So genuine honesty is number 1.
And do you find like so in terms of the expectations that people have on each other, do you feel that like the older you get, I would imagine the more you
Oh,
learn, and
yes.
therefore your expectations, it's not that they
Oh, yes.
become
Sorry.
lower, but I would imagine
Yeah.
that it's more that they, you get to know yourself better, obviously, as the years go
Yes.
on to some extent.
Yeah.
But I would imagine, and like what I would look for now would be different to what I look for in my 20s. And then, when I get older, I would imagine I'd just be so grateful of company that
Yeah.
perhaps it's more to do with, the accepting the other person so much more
Yeah.
than trying to make them fit into the world that you want. Does that make
Yes,
sense?
yeah. So you're right. I jumped there. So in the 30s, guys usually go for looks. And then they go for personality. And if you have someone to click with me, they always say someone to click with me. They're still very much into a lot of them. If they keep fit, they want someone who is fit, and it hurts them so much to say that. You know what? I want her to me. I want her to be sexy. They hate saying that, but you know exactly that's what they want. They want to be attracted to that person, depending how insecure or secure they are. Sometimes they want that girl on their arm to show off, but if they're more in touch with themselves, they're looking for that authentic girl who just has a bit of fun with them, who is a bit adventurous, who is a bit spontaneous, you know, who people like desire and creating that desire. And there's nothing like a bit of mischievous personality coming into your relationship to kind of push each other that little bit further in your comfort zone and a bit challenging. Now that goes 30s, 40s, 50s. You find people in their 50s or 40s, and if they have their own house, they'd say, listen, I'd like to go because I don't want to have to support him because I landed up supporting my ex-wife too much or my ex-husband. Now, they're not necessarily money orientated. They've been hurt and they haven't dealt with their pain. And their pain is financial pain, and they need to release that blockage to let authentic people in, or else they'll pick up someone who's broken like them, who have that barrier in relation to something that really isn't that important. You know, if someone has their act together and is separated and has the strength to go out and get his act together or her act together again, you have to give people a break. We fall in love more with the imperfection than the perfections. The vulnerability and in people is absolutely vital for falling in love.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's the truth, because when people are being vulnerable and open up, they let out the truth in them, and that's why those Dr. Arthur Avon's questions are important, because they go in and say, who's your favorite uncle and why? So in my case, my favorite uncle was my Uncle Tom, and a Cavan farmer. And why was he my favorite uncle? Because he used to tell stories and make me laugh. And what do I go for in a man? Someone who can tell stories and make me laugh. So, you know, it's those questions open up so many thoughts within us, why we go for a certain type and why we don't.
Mm. And out of curiosity as well, because I think that this is it's a burning question for me. What do men want? What do women want? You know, and I know we're saying in terms of expectations and it will change with age, but what are the biggest misconceptions of what girls think guys want and what guys think girls want? Because I know there's a certain society expects women to be, you know, their face to be perfect now and made up so perfectly that it's nearly airbrushed, and you know, the lips and the filler and the hair to be a particular way. And I can say for me, it's kind of take me as I am. I'm much more natural, and I would attract a guy who's much more natural. And I would say there's a lot of girls, a lot of women who go out and they, you know, if that's their style, well and good. I'm not criticizing it, but I find what I've noticed through the years is when they're portraying this perfect image, when that comes off at nighttime and it appears in the morning, the guys can be like, whoa. And because it's so different, and it's an insecurity on their behalf. But I think that there's pressure on women to match up to what we're seeing on TV, to what we're living in media.
And that's actually not what guys want.
No,
it's back to feelings. Of course they want an attractive person. They don't want a supermodel. Honestly, they don't. They want someone who kind of is similar to them, and I match them with someone who's similar to them. You know, the way when I actually see them as walking down the aisle, as soppy as it sounds, I say, can I see those two walking down the aisle? And I can, and that's, you know, I link attraction. People are attracted to people like themselves. So if affection, attention, and appreciation. If we go back to those three things, they're people needs. There's people's needs. They want that happiness. So they want that other person to fulfill them. But they have to remember, you know, we drink out of two separate cups. Cathal Gabrun, he says, he talks about that, about not drinking, but being able to share the cups and link arms, but to keep your own personality and your own self. We are not two halves. Where's my other half? No, because if you break your other half, you're only a quarter. Stay there as a whole, and you are never more than a whole, because if you do and you let yourself wear down, you will break down when there's any trauma that happens. So I always go back to nature and think of yourself as a tree, and you get your roots right. And that is knowing your values, knowing your strengths, knowing your knowing what's important to you, knowing that I want to meet someone and settle down and to have kids. That's the biggest problem. People not being honest, and they might say, "Do you know what? I'm not sure whether I want kids," when they really do. So literally say it out. Say it out from the very beginning. And you can say, "Listen, it's not you. It mightn't be you, but what's important to me in life is," and it'll make that guy or that girl step up and be honest about themselves and say, "Do you know what? That's not in my list of 5 values." So get your values right. So, but what people really want is themselves and in another person. And that's why you often see broken people attract broken people.
Yeah.
So security in a person, there's 3-4 types of attachment, and it's secure, which is 50%, anxious attachment, and avoidant attachment, which is 25%, and then 5% a mix of the two. And we have to be aware of what we don't want to attach, and sometimes that's more important than what we do, because if we've been hurt before, we have to learn to stop triggers and habits of picking up what we've done in the past. I get so many ladies coming and guys in their late 30s, and they say, "I can't believe I'm making the same mistakes I've always made. I can't believe I pick up this kind of guy. I can't believe I do this." And when they go through the list, they actually realize, yes, I've done that before, and I've done that before, and I've done that before. So it's breaking bad habits instead of going forward and continuing those bad habits. So yes, it's all about attraction. It's all about that spark and that chemistry and that eye contact and that cheeky look you give a guy, and you can feel it. And when that guy gives you that cheeky look and go, "Yeah, I held his eyes contact for 3 seconds," and and you feel it. It is that 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. 3 is a long time. And you can even do it across the computer and feel that connection there. And so it is attraction, it is personality, it is linking hobbies and interests, it is having that zest for life in the same level as they do. You can't put a couch potato with someone who's out cycling around constantly. You'd get bored with each other soon enough. You have to be on the same vibe or have the same interests, or going back to nature.
And what I can hear as a common thread throughout this whole thing is very much about, it's about getting to know yourself, and how can you attract somebody else? How can you attract the right person if you don't know who you are? Because if you're putting across who you think you are, then you're going to attract somebody who resonates with that, and then you're going to find out very quickly that's not who you are either. So in a way, I always feel the people that we meet in life are the ones that define our edges, and instead of looking at like we define our own edges, but I like the idea of positive and negative not ever really being positive or negative. They're just signposts back to who you are, and they're signposts back to yourself to tell you who you are. So if a relationship didn't work, it might be really, really difficult to look at it and very painful to look at it, but it's actually telling you what you don't want, so that you can rephrase it into what you do want. And I actually use this with people that I work with. In that I will say to them, because we love to focus on the negative things. We it's so easy for us to come up with 10 negative things and so difficult to come up with 10 positive things. But if you want 10 positive, write down your 10 negative, flip it on its head, turn it into a positive statement, and that's what you do want, or it's at least a little bit closer to it.
When I'm writing someone's profile and they're telling me, and this is what I don't like, and I always turn that into a positive and show them how to turn it into a positive, because then they can change their own vibe and their own, get out of everything negative. And because negative is fear, and our thoughts, they come back to our actors. Our thoughts, beliefs, land up being our actions. And if we want to change our actions, we have to, Dr. Joe Dispenza is the best of at explaining it. We have to change our actions, and you can do it. Just listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's absolutely amazing. But when it comes to finding love, you have to know, and it's Dr. John Gray who's all about this. You have to know your love language. And so there are 5 different love languages. And even if we're in a situation with our mothers or other families and we're finding that stress and we're finding like she doesn't get me, the minute you say she doesn't get me, you have to know that's one of your love languages. So I know and it's good to know what order they're in. So mine is affirmation. I love my 3 boys and my partner. I love when they kind of say, thanks for that. That's fabulous, rather than what did you make there? That dinner is gross, I love when they say, oh, I put a little more effort in, and they said, what, you put extra salt in? No, but you want them to notice it. So mine would be affirmation. I love touch, and that's why, the touch is second. Touch, even if it's a hug. I'm missing giving people hugs. Acts of service, which is kind of, some people like things done. Like, I went up to my mum's and she said, oh, would you mind just mowing the lawn there the other day? Would you mind? And that to her, when I'd be thinking, would it not be better as sitting down and having a cup of coffee in the garden because I couldn't go in? And she'd go, and my son is going, when you're talking about people going away, my 24-year-old is going off to Dubai. And I was thinking, oh, you can spend time with him. No, I want to help you in the garden. And he came up to say goodbye to her, and then I'm kind of criticizing her, when really, just because affirmation and touch are my things, they're not hers. Hers are acts of service and gifts. So I have to learn to be patient with my mother, because they're not her love languages. So we all have to, and then quality time. Quality time is absolutely top of the list for me. So it's not hers, obviously. Like, she calls quality time gardening, doing her garden. I call quality time listening to people and advising them what they should be doing.
That's just gold all by itself, because I think, if you have that, like, that's a very simple list. I'm sure there's a huge amount of detail in it, and it's going to, as you say, it's going to mean different things for different people, but it's it's beautiful, because what works for you may not work for somebody else. And so much about compassion, it's so much about understanding yourself first. Like, we think it's selfish to work on yourself first. It's actually probably the most loving thing you could do for yourself and for others. Because if you're happy, other people are happy. If you're happy, you're attracting the same vibrations towards you. But to use that list and know what your, top 5 is, or, in whatever order they are, and for somebody else to do the same list, I think it would actually, in terms of communication in a couple, be very, very valuable as well. Because you can say, I really love doing things for you, and I love when you compliment me and tell me that I'm really good at it. But you don't find value in that, because you think that that's just boosting my ego. But it's not. It's actually just how I operate. So I think that's very important.
So in relation to my partner, he loves doing jobs around here as kind of like helping. I know it's active love for me. He loves giving me flowers, or giving me gifts, whereas that's not really important to me. What's important to me, he sits and listens to me. Now, I break his heart with the amount he has to listen to, but that's what's important to me, that he listens to me. And if sometimes he listens and he says nothing, and I said, could you not say yes or no there? I'm not asking for a full conversation. I don't want to push it too far, but yes or no would be nice. So by us learning that, even if we're living in a house with housemates, just to be a little more compassionate, as you're saying there, Deborah, and by being a little more compassionate, we can go, okay, that's my love language. It doesn't have to be theirs, and that's my favorite love language. And some of us have it all equally. But we just have to be a bit more compassionate and say, okay, what's bothering them? And if you see someone cranky at the moment, just go, what's bothering them? Because, and is there how are you feeling? It's not, what are you doing today? How are you feeling today? Get into people's feelings and kind of connect with them, because a lot of people are feeling very lost at the moment. And just listen. That's what most people want more than ever. So as the course that I teach is about grounding in back to the tree. And this is what I really feel that everyone needs. And it's funny, I'm not very spiritual, but I keep on doing, I do believe it's a high spirit, but it's close to your heart, and you know, you feel that energy. But you get your roots right. And this is, it goes back to ourselves. It doesn't have to be a relationship. We have to do it for ourselves first. So think of yourself as a tree, and you get your roots right. And my father used to say, everything goes back to nature. And honestly, we do at the end of the day. And I definitely believe in every way we do. And your roots are all your values. Then you get the trunk of all those years in the trunk are the years of your life. And you choose what your thoughts are in those years and write them up and put them in a vision board, or put them on this piece of paper, or put them on posters around the place, and just say, I love that year. I love doing that. I love doing that. And write them out and surround yourself with all that love at the moment, because it can be shaky. We all go through anxieties. And we just have to clarify our mind and take us back to that happy space, and not to let our subconscious negative thoughts get in there. We have to force ourselves to say, I am enough. I am enough. I've written on the inside of my mirror, I am enough. And my partner ruined my lipstick and he said, no shit under it. But he didn't, but he didn't realize I really have to say that. He says, but you're always so happy and bubbly and everything. And I said, no, sometimes I'm not. I just go quiet. But that quietness is new normal. But my quietness is, oh, I'm not feeling great today. So we just have to get our story right. And when you're going on dates, if you have your story right, you're more confident and you're a happier person in you. So I teach people how to write and rewrite their own stories to get them to that stage where they're blossoming. And then with blossoming, I call that like growing your leaves and growing your different personalities and getting your hobbies and spending time on what you really like and making time for you. Time is the most important thing in this world at the moment. And you have the time to make time to improve on you. So why wouldn't you do it?
So can I ask you, for people who are listening, who perhaps are, we're with the state of the world at the moment, with the way things are, it's very hard for people to meet people unless they're online. So what's your advice for, because look, we don't know how long this is all going to go on for. And even when things come back to some semblance of normalcy, what do you advise people in terms of how to meet people? Obviously, you're providing a service where you can match people anyway, but where do people find people? What's your advice?
I do have a lot of people coming to me through the matchmaker.ie, but what and anyone is welcome who'd like to talk to me about that. But what I actually would recommend people to do is find their best selves at the moment, that clarity of what really makes them tick, and dealing with as many fears that they have, and get over those fears. Because if you don't want to be in that 50% first time, 67 second time, and 83 third time round, if you don't want to be in those statistics of breakups, get to know yourself, get to know really what makes you click. I'm doing a 21 days course on getting yourself in the right place. Now, I'm willing to give anyone a discount who's interested in coming onto it, but I'm doing it through Facebook, and I'm getting people to open up, join a tribe, chat in the tribe. It's called the Relationship Expert. And in there, I kind of give advice, and I get other people, I'll get you on as well, and get people in to talk about how to be an expert in their own relationships. You are the expert in your relationship. You choose whether you want to be happy. You choose whether you want to be fulfilled. You choose whether you want to bring negativeness into your life, and you choose, hopefully, not to. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And just if people want to get in contact with you, Sharon, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
They can email me at sharon@thematchmaker.ie, or I could give you my mobile. Will I do that?
We can put it in a link below. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay. And because of you, Deborah, I've started a podcast. So it's Sharon, Queen of Hearts. So I'm going to start doing podcasts because
Fantastic.
so many people need that encouragement and support through this time more than ever.
And they can check you out on the matchmaker.ie. So I'll actually put all the links of that below, and I'll put your little freebie as well. Thank you very much below as well. So
Okay.
I love to ask everybody when they're on the show, I'd love to ask everybody what their intrepid wisdom is for those people who are listening, or for the generations that are coming ahead. You know, essentially information, you know, that's inherent in our DNA and what we can carry forward.
Just realize you're an individual, and you might be a circle and someone else might be a square, and just you do not need to fit into their square. Be yourself. You do not need to fill those spaces in someone else's square. Be yourself, be happy in yourself. And the way you do that is through clarity, and stop questioning those busy minds and just go into that good space by saying, I am enough. I am wonderful. Give yourself 3 pieces of gratitude every day about how wonderful you are. And honestly, over this time more than ever, giving is so important. And they've done research that by giving, you actually help other people. So be sure when you're out there today, give a compliment to someone, give a bit of a hand to someone, no matter how small it is. Be gentle over this time more than ever, but always continue that, because it is the most wonderful thing we can do in life is to give.
Do you know, I've even, when I was traveling, I remember one thing that I used to love to do was to just, this sounds very simple, just smile at people. And what I loved was sometimes you pass people and they had like a real scowl or a real kind of cranky face. And when you smiled at them, oh my God, their face would completely change and light up. So even those people that you feel are, you know, you're judging who they are, what mood they're in, your smile can light somebody up. And I know we can't all show our smiles at the moment, but we can show our smiles with our eyes, and it's incredible how much communication we hold in our eyes. And even just to give by just, as you say, giving a compliment or just acknowledging, all we want to be
absolutely
seen, understood and heard. And I think if it's all it is to acknowledge the existence of another person, there's so many people may feel unseen, and it's such a simple thing to do.
Well, Deborah, on that point, I just want to say you've the biggest heart. You're doing this from the right place because you're absolutely beautiful inside and out. So on that point, thank you for having me on. And I hope this podcast does really well for you, because you're very genuine and authentic. And I wish all the love to go your way in the future.
You're so good. You're so good. It was a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So for those of you who are listening to the podcast or watching the video, don't forget to like, comment and share to let me know you care. To stay up to date, hit the subscribe button and bell to receive notifications. And for podcast links and free gifts, check out intrepidwisdom.com, and be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And I've now placed a donate button if you want to help support the show. So in the meantime, stay curious. Thank you.